to date and time formula. So basically in date and time formula, there is not much basic. For the current date, you need to implement today, and for the current time, you need to implement the now formula. So basically in any cell, if you'll go and you'll press today, bracket open and bracket close. Okay, so you'll get the today's date, and if you'll press the time, so you'll just go to implement this formula now and pressing enter, you will get date and time as well. So basically here it is 6:27 a.m. That is why we are getting this particular time. This is very simple. And coming to this one, the Countif. Now Countif, why Countif is used? So before Countif, now you need to understand some more formulas. Okay, the first is count. So basically count is used to count the number of values you have provided in a particular cell. Okay, like let's say if we'll select all the cells, so it will provide you a count. By counting, it will provide you a number of cell in which data has been written. So let's take an example, is equal to count, and let's say I have selected from here. So from motherboard I have selected this particular area. So I have selected total 20 cells, right? Why I am selecting this much of, so that you can count it, so that you will see the difference. Like I have provided the count formula and I have selected 20 cells. In all these 20 cells, the data is written already. So now it will look how much cell it will be counting. It is counting only 10 cells. Why is it so? We have selected 20 cells and all 20 cells have data, but it is showing only 10, because if we'll press provide the count of formula, it will only be counting the values, the numerical values. The numerical values it will be counting. Like here also, we'll press the count and we'll select it from here. So what they will do, they will be counting the numerical values only. So if there is any text, so they won't be counting it. Like let's say if here I'll implement the count formula and here I'll select this one, so they are not going to count it. They are showing 0. Why 0? Just because all the cells whatever we have selected have the data. So it doesn't have the numerical data, because all of them are having Q1, Q2, Q3, na? So they are alphabetical, alphanumeric data. There is no number in that particular data. So that is why. If there will be any numerical value of that particular cell, like I have selected this date and then we have got this result, correct? Why? Because as per Excel, I have already told you that as per Excel, every date has a numerical value, right? And every number can be converted into a date. Can anybody tell me that Excel start counting the dates from which date? 1st of January 1900. The Excel starts counting the day from 1st of January 1900. Okay, that is why every date has a numerical value and every numerical value can be converted into a date format. Now, so basically this count function only counts what? Only counts numerical data. Whatever the cells in which there is numerical data, then only they'll be counting it. Okay, so now what if you need to count alphabetical and numerical both data? So for alphabetical and numerical both data, you need to implement count A. Count A. Somebody used to call it counta, somebody used to call it count A, but basically I used to call it count A because it is counting the alphabets as well. Okay, so it is going to count alphabet, but it's not that it is not going to count numericals. So it is going to count alphabet and numericals, like any type of data. Only there must be written anything and then it will be counting it. For example, let's say is equal to count and counter, and from here again we will be selecting the same area. Okay, so if now it will be showing you the value of 20. Okay, so here again we are going to implement counter, and from here we will be selecting this area. So now it will be showing you 10 because only 10 cells are having data and 10 cells are blank. Okay, so let's say if now we were counting the number of cells in which there is some data. What if we need to count the cells which are blank? Let's say there is this much of data. We said that there are 100 rows. So we have 100 line items. So within this 100 line items, if I need to find that either of them is empty or not, blank or not, for that purpose, what I need to do, I need to implement count blank. Which formula? I need to implement count blank, so that it will be counting the blank cells. So for that, here we can, here it is count blank. So when you will be selecting count blank and then you will be selecting this much, so then it will be showing you that how many cells are there in your selection who doesn't have any value. Like count is used for numerical values, count A is used for counting the number of cells having numerical or alphabetical, whatever values are there, and count blank is used for counting the blank cells. Okay, normally what happens, like here you can count it, like you know that there are 100 line items. Okay, so whenever you will be implementing the formula, after implementing the formula, you must be getting 100 results. So we need to cross check, only to cross check that have we got the correct number of results, or is there any formula that has been left for the implementation. Because sometimes what happens now, that when you will drag this formula, so it will drag it up to an extent, and after that it will stop. Okay, it won't drag due to any reasons. Let's say here there is no quantity, or here there is some empty cells. Due to that, it stops there itself. So that in that condition, we need to just to confirm that we have implemented the formula in the complete sheet. We need to use this count in the conditional formatting. Also it is being used, so we'll be learning further about the conditional formatting. So in the conditional formatting also, it will be used somewhere, that how you need to count all these things, and how you need to count like number of cells, and on the basis of that you need to highlight it. Okay, so basically it is used on that totally depends on the requirement of your data, but yeah, it is used a number of times. Okay, now comes the Countif. So now what is why we are selecting the count if. Now you have just studied if, right? So that if function is for a condition, right? It always asks for a logic. So here also it will be counting the number of cells, but for counting the number of cells, it will be asking you for the logic, okay, for a criteria, that to whom, like when I need to count. Here we will be providing count if. Now here it is asking for the range and criteria. So let's say I need to count that within this particular product row, how many monitors are there, like how many times the monitors are there or the motherboards are there. So for the range, I've selected the complete range, and for the criteria, I've selected one particular cell, okay, motherboard. So what it will do, it will basically counting number of times the motherboard is used in this particular range. It is showing 40. So you can cross check as well, like select it and select the motherboard, and then when you will be selecting all this thing, so it is showing you the count is 40. Basically the count if is used for counting the number of cells on the basis of a criteria. So basically count if is used for counting the data on the basis of your criteria. Okay, now there is another option, that is Countifs. Now why this Countifs is used? So basically, if you want to count it on a basis of multiple conditions, then only you will be using Countifs. So when you'll be implementing Countifs, is equal to Countifs, here you'll be getting a number of options like criteria 1 range. Okay, so this is the criteria range 1. Let's say I need to count how many motherboards are being used in the west region. Okay, so first I'll select the criteria range 1, comma, this is the criteria. My criteria is motherboard. Now coming to the criteria range 2, this is my criteria range 2, and my criteria is west. So I have selected both the criteria. Now what will happen, it will only count the number of motherboards we are getting in the west region. Okay, so here it will be going 22. So the same motherboard they have count, that is 40, but now the motherboard with the west is 22. So here you can figure out that select motherboard, provide a filter here on west. Now you'll be easily able to figure out that you have only 22 motherboards, okay, that have been sold in the West region. This is basically, I'm telling you the way to cross check, that how you can cross check that you have got the right answer or not. That's it. So this is about Countif. Now, there is a sum formula, sum. Now, sum is used for adding, right? For adding it, like you have provided sum, and here you have selected a range, and now you are just adding all this thing. Okay, so you have added the total price. Now, let's say there is a condition that you need to add all the prices only of motherboard or monitor or HP laser printer. So then what will you do? So then you will implement sum if. So let's say in sum if we get an option of motherboard, monitor and HP laser printer, we get an option here. So we need to add up the prices of these. So what we'll do, we'll implement sum if. So when you implement sum if, first it is asking for the range. So for the range, you need to provide this product range. Understood? For the range, we need to select the product range. We'll fix it. Why I am fixing it? Because here, as you see, we have got some other products. So we are going to drag it. Okay. That is why I just selected the range. I fixed it. And now I'm going to press the criteria. So this is my criteria. And then after that, you need to set the sum range. So this is the sum range, because this is the range you need to add. Okay, so I selected the sum range. I have closed it, enter. So this is what you are getting. This is, you are getting the sum of the total prices of motherboard. This is the sum of the total prices of monitor, and this is the sum of the total prices of HP laser printer. So basically, earlier when we have implemented sum, so at that moment what we did, we added all the prices. Right now we want the sum of all the prices on the basis of what? On the basis of a product. So that is why I implemented sum if. In sum if, first it is asking for the range. Range means you need to select that range in which you are going to implement the criteria. Okay, that is why I selected the product range, just because my criteria will be related to product. That is why I have selected the complete product range. After that, it was asking about the criteria. So for the criteria, I have selected my particular product. Okay, bhai, what is the criteria for this range? And after that, it was asking for your sum range. Sum range means you need to provide that range which you need to add. So that is why now I have fixed the range and the sum range. Why? Because here I was going to drag this particular formula for all these three products. So while dragging this particular formula, I just make sure neither this particular product range nor this total price will move. Okay, that is why I make the particular range and sum range as fixed. One more thing, like here, whenever you are implementing a formula, please make sure every time you don't need to write the cell references. Rather than writing here L8, I can also write within the in double inverted comma, I can also write motherboard. The only thing you need to take care is it should be like in the exact format whatever has been written. So even if you need write motherboard, even if you write the data, so also you will get the result, but the data should be exactly same, including the space bar, the case structure, everything should be exactly same. Then only it will going to match, and then only you are going to get the answers. And when I was talking about the basic of the formulas, so in that basics, we have already learned that if you need to write any alphabet, then you need to write it into double inverted comma. If you need to write any cell reference or any numerical value, then you don't need to write in double inverted comma. Right. So this is about sum if. Now coming to sum ifs. So for sum if, what would be the condition? So let's say product. Now I need to sum up the price on the basis of this product and on the basis of this area, right? Now I don't need to sum up all the motherboard prices, but I need to sum up the motherboard prices on the basis of this south region. So what I'll do now, I'll press sum ifs. So when you will press sum ifs now, then the first thing you will get is sum range. That first select the sum range. First select the range from where you need to sum up. So I have selected this comma. Now it is asking for criteria range 1. So my criteria range 1 would be, yes, the criteria range 1 would be the total product. This is the criteria range, and I'll be fixing the criteria range. Now I'll be selecting the criteria. The first criteria is this motherboard. Now again, when you press comma, you'll be asking for the criteria range 2. Now my criteria range 2 would be this region, okay? And my second criteria would be this region. So I've selected this, pressed enter. So now it is doing what? It is only summing up the total prices of these products in these specific areas. You can do it manually and can check that either they are implementing the same thing or not. Some ifs, count blank, count a, Countifs, these are the things. Okay, so please try to understand and please try to practice these things. Okay, this is for today. You can see